So I received in the mail the largest war game that I have yet bought. I've played some monster war games. I own some. I've got well, the first one I played was 1914 Twilight in the East, and I've since bought the follow-up to that, 1914 Offensive à Outrance, and also I have one of the Labatt games, the La Bataille de la Moskva, which is the Battle of Borodino, which is a 4-map monster-sized game. And probably the biggest one I have is the recent Line of Battle, Last Chance for Victory, from Dean Essig at the Gamers and MMP. I think that's, although I still think that's only 4 maps. Actually, 1914 Twilight in the East, that's 5 maps. That might actually be the largest one that I have, which had, I want to say, like 8 counter sheets or so. I think this one pretty much blows all those away. In fact, I'm not even sure how many counter sheets this has. I know it's more than 9, probably more than 10. It might have as many as 12 counter sheets. Even if it doesn't have that many, if it's got 10, that's still more than any other game that I currently own. Certainly, the box is bigger. This is one thing that the Decision Games does. They make these fairly large boxes. They're about the length of, like, a Monopoly box or something from Parker Brothers, or at least they seem like they are. But as you can see, this is a lot thicker. I guess one of the other sort of monsters that I have, I don't know how if this is officially a monster game, but it's another Decision title. This is Highway to the Reich. As you can see there, another one of these sort of large Decision Games boxes. These are the only 2 Decision games that I even have. I don't think all of their boxes are this big, but for some of their bigger games, they have the bigger boxes. But as you can see, Atlantic Wall is an even thicker box than Highway to the Reich. Highway to the Reich, it's a classic cover. It's right off of the original SPI version of the game. So I thought that for Atlantic Wall, Decision would do the same. They would do the original Atlantic Wall cover, which has this bunker with the giant gun on it, but it's a full shot of the bunker, and there's a German soldier, kind of tiny looking, standing next to the gun to put things in perspective. Very classic cover with this huge gun sticking out of this bunker. But for some reason here, Decision opted to crop down to the point of, what the hell is that? I mean, it looks like a gun, but what's the rest of the image? Crop it down to the level of pointlessness, and then smush in and badly photographically merge in a picture of a D-Day landing craft view. I mean, that's a fairly famous picture too. We've all seen pictures of that. The guys getting out into the water on D-Day off the landing craft. But just in terms of cognitive dissonance, the 2 images are totally different perspectives, totally different scales. Just have no business being smashed in next to each other on the cover of the box. I don't know why you wouldn't stick with one unified classic image from the original game. I mean, was Decision Games afraid that somebody wouldn't realize this game was about D-Day if it showed a bunker and a gun on it instead of guys getting off of a landing craft? Well, I don't know why they'd be worried about that. They put D-Day to Falaise right on the cover, so obviously it's a game about D-Day, even if people aren't familiar with the term Atlantic Wall. And even despite all that, this is about I don't know what the list is for this game, like $250 or something. This is a ridiculously expensive game. It's not going to be on shelves at stores. If it is on the shelf at any store, at least in the United States, you could probably count those stores, the number of stores that would have this on their shelf, on one hand. So, you might get 5 or 6 sales of a game like this off the shelf. Otherwise, everyone who's ever going to buy this game has already bought it. They pre-ordered it like I did. Or they'll buy it later on directly from Decision Games or from Cool Stuff Inc. or some other online retailer. They'll know what it is because they'll have researched it, because nobody picks up a $250 game and says, "Oh, maybe I'll give this a try. I've never played a war game before, but cool, D-Day." No, it's not how this works. This hobby is small enough that everybody pretty much knows what these games are when they're going in. I love talking about war game cover art, but in terms of a sales point on modern war games today that are sold today, cover art is about pointless. Back in the Avalon Hill SPI days when you could go to your local KB toy store and buy war games off the shelf, yeah, probably had a much larger impact on sales. Now, everything's bought via internet retailers by people who've researched stuff. There's very few people that buy war games completely just having no idea of what's going to be in the box before they buy it. So why you would mar your game with a pointless, goofy-looking cover like this makes no sense to me. Decision Games generally has just the worst covers of the major war game companies. But why should they put much thought into their covers? I just pointed out the reason that covers don't even matter. So what do they care? I happen to like them from an aesthetic point of view, and I always appreciate any publisher or designer who takes a certain aesthetic quality into their cover art. Certainly, it has no. I'm not interested in it from any commercial standpoint, but so if the publishers put crappy artwork on there, it's not going to cost them a whole lot of sales, but it will get the occasional internet weirdo rambling on about them, as I'm a case in point. So anyway, let's go ahead and take a look inside the box. I guess I can flip it over and see the back side. A box this big, and it's fairly typical kind of stuff. You see the maps, you see some counter examples, map art, inspirational quote from General Dwight Eisenhower, and a typical text describing how the game works, and then your chart down here of how long it will take you. I do love the fact that the time logo there is a little infinity symbol. The campaign will take you forever. You will likely never finish it. And I may do, once I get the lid off here, and get Highway to the Reich out of the way, I may take the camera off the tripod here, since my tripod's not really high enough to get a good angle out of the way. So see if I can move the camera, tripod out of the way. And now, as you can see, the stuff's sort of laying loose in here. Whoops. Getting things all out of whack. 2 bags of bags. That's not really a good sign. Usually, so for games this big, this got totally... There we go. So all this stuff, for games this big, at least this was the case for Highway to the Reich and for this, the counter sheets and play aids and stuff are actually shrink wrapped. I had already opened the box and popped those out of there because I didn't want to open all the shrink wrap stuff on camera. So usually that stuff's all shrink wrapped so it won't slide around in the box. And then on the other side here, you've got the rule book. So this is the GOSS series. It's the Grand Operational Simulation Series, GOSS. Originally, this system was started with Wacht am Rhein, and then the follow-up to that, Hurtgen Hell's Forest. This is the latest game to use the GOSS system, which was developed by Joe Youst at Decision Games. I don't know. Obviously, this is a remake of a original SPI title, which I think was originally designed by Joe Balkowski. And I don't know how much of that actual original system has been integrated into this. I never actually played the SPI Atlantic Wall, and I haven't played any of the GOSS system games either, so this is the first one I have of the series. So I'm not exactly sure what's been kept from the original system and what has been changed. As you can see here, this is not a thin rule book, but you wouldn't expect it to be with a game of this size. Let's see how many pages. 64. So, and that's the series book, so yeah, it's pretty big. Now how much of it will specifically apply to Atlantic Wall, I'm not sure. Here's the Atlantic Wall exclusive rules. Another big, fairly hefty book. And this is, oh, what do you know, also 64 pages. So, you know, you're looking at 128 pages of rules. That's going to take some work. Now, I don't know. Yeah, so it looks like these are set up. So a lot of this in these scenario-specific rules are going to be set up instructions for the various scenarios. So you're not looking at 64 pages of additional exception rules and series-specific exceptions and things like that. Although, you know, it looks like there's still a fair amount here at the beginning of the rulebook. So, so that will, you know, you're dealing with a monster when you've got two 64-page rulebooks. Now, one of the reasons I think that Decision Games uses these larger boxes is because you get fewer map folds. In a bigger box like that, you can have your maps not have to have that extra fold in them that a bookcase, bookshelf-sized box would have. So we can start working our way through the, and I think this was actually on top, Atlantic Wall Analysis. This is a little nice color, glossy book on just a lot of the data and history behind the Normandy campaign. And this does cover, you know, a good portion of the Normandy campaign. The Falaise, I don't know if that's, we're talking Normandy breakout level here. The original, I know this game does go beyond what the original Atlantic Wall did to include Operation Cobra, which was another SPI game. Now I think that's the only additional actual game that they've folded in here. So you're getting more than just a straight up remake of the period covered in the original Atlantic Wall. You're also getting that Operation Cobra additional content as well. So now we can start working our way through the various player aids and counter sheets. And you've got here naval transit beach holding boxes and single-sided. So this is all going to be stuff that's going to be laying out in addition to, you know, however many maps you're using. And if I've got room here, I'll try and fold out all the maps if I can. There's your weather tables. Probably making a lot of use of that. Airborne Display. This covers all of your various airborne units for the game. You've got your British up there, and the 101st and 82nd Airborne for the United States. Game turn record track. It's a tool on the sheet here. You got time of day, various weather for different map segments, and then your different turn for each different month and so forth. It looks like all these are single-sided. Commonwealth record tracks for all of the different Commonwealth armies. U.S. record tracks for your different U.S. armies. Again, all single-sided. More transit beach holding boxes for Omaha and Utah. Movement and construction tables. So this looks like basically your kind of terrain chart here. Quite dense. Covering all the levels of movement stuff. There's a construction table. Oh yeah, now we're getting into double-sided. So for that, so these are actual player aids here. This looks like the CRT for ground assaults. Looks like total gibberish to me. I do see some odds and stuff on there. This looks like a repeat of the same chart. So there's 2 of those for each player. Amphibious invasion module tables. And the fire results table there. And these all sit fairly double-sided down. There's your airborne assault tables, and then something looks totally baffling there. Airborne movement. So, and again, there's 2 of these, 1 for each player. And Atlantic Wall logistics table. Unit replacement tables. You got all your different many steps and so forth for all of your different types of units. So you get a mix of NATO symbology and silhouettes in here. And again, 2 of these. Fire support AUV tables. Ground assault charts and tables, probably with all of your modifiers. Yes. So as you can see, chart heavy, dense with text and numbers. 2 of those. Unit breakdown chart. I don't know, this is good. So this shows how you break down the different levels of each of the different types of units that you've got. Also a nice visual ID here for all the various record markers that exist in the game. So this also be very beneficial during the game. There's your unit type chart that shows an excellent breakdown of all the counters. This is a lot of times this kind of information is usually only in the manual, so really great to have all that printed out on a chart and what looks to be fairly exhaustive detail. And that's another 2 of those also. So a nice pile of charts there. Now these counter sheets I think got a little bit out of order. There's the total number, 1 of 16. Interesting invasion module sheet. So I'm not sure why they call them that. So we got 16 counter sheets in here. And they're fairly handsome counters, and the die cutting all looks good. Nothing appears to be too offset or anything. Some of my GMT games recently, like Hoplite, had some counter alignment issues on them. But these all appear to look pretty good. Here's the next sheet with all your German units. Looks like a lot of markers on there. And you can see these are, if I can zoom in without totally blowing focus here, there's a lot of info on these counters. But a lot of that info, you can see the standard 3-number attack, defense, movement, your NATO symbol, unit designations and so forth. There's just some extra numbers here and there on these, little extra numbers next to the attack, move, defend numbers on there. So I'll have to learn what all those numbers mean. And again, everything looks to be pretty good. There's lots of black counters. That must be all of the SS units, right? That's how these things usually go. The SS gets the black units. Yep, in fact, you can see it up there. Waffen SS. And the Luftwaffe gets the light blue. Yeah, there was still some Luftwaffe around in 1944. More Germans here, more Wehrmacht. I do like it when they specify exactly what you're looking at on the counter sheet there. That's always handy. Here we are with the U.S. Army. And in addition to designing the game, looks like Joe Youst also did the counter art. And I think these are good, decent, functional counters. I don't think anybody's going to complain about counters like this. I'm not sure. Get some light blue units. They are the Free French. Be some of de Gaulle's boys helping out. More U.S. troops. Looks like a lot of the artillery units on that. Here's the British and their classic tan counters. we're British, and of course, it wouldn't be D-Day without the Canadians. And I'm not sure how many other Commonwealth troops were around on D-Day. I actually don't know a whole lot about D-Day. I've not read any extensive books on it. I've just seen television documentaries and so forth. So my D-Day knowledge, my general World War II knowledge is not as good as say, my Civil War knowledge or things like that. But so I'm not sure beyond British and Canadian troops of whether there were any Aussies or Indian troops or any other type Commonwealth. For some reason, there's more Luftwaffe stuck on counter sheet 10 there. And now we're going to get into all of the markers. I'm not sure what the little Ace of Spades markers are for, but there's a lot of them. People who've played the Gauss system probably know what those things are. These other things over here, though, are clearly fortifications. They're kind of universal symbols in just about any game you see. And here, more and more markers. Some look like they're specific to some of the military units. In fact, here we've got more Wehrmacht on sheet 13. So these may be for different scenarios and portions of the game. Obviously, this is a big game, got a lot of scenarios in it. And again, it's covering different eras. You've got the actual D-Day landings, and then you've got the various parts of the Normandy campaign and the breakout up to and including, like I said, Operation Cobra. More markers on sheet 15 and sheet 16 listed as an auxiliary sheet, but instead of blue colors, it's got all red on it, so I guess that's what you use for there, guys. So 16 counter sheets, easily the most counter sheets I've had for any game. I will fish the maps out and set them up, see how much room I have. These are, got my 4 modular tables here together, and that's about as big as I can get. I could probably squeeze one more table into this room, but not a whole lot of space left once I've got, because I have to be able to get to all sides of it. I can't just push it up against the wall and have 4 or 5 tables coming out of the wall, so because I won't be able to reach the stuff in the far corner. So that's the only drawback for my limited gaming space. When I get eventually moved to a new house, that will be the next step. We'll be adding at least an extra bedroom and a full basement to the square footage that I'm currently living in, and the basement will be the gaming central. So let me see if I've got room to set these maps up. And the answer is no, I do not have anywhere near enough space to set up all of these maps. So I also, you can see here, there's landing diagrams and so forth for the British and for the Americans here. These are nice cardstock displays. Also here, German record tracks, artillery, Allied artillery holding boxes, Atlantic Wall strategic map. So, in addition to just the maps themselves, I need room for these 4 displays, which are all, long, large displays. And then this back here, which is the actual, at least for the landing scenario, once the landings are done, this stuff can go away. But this is the amphibious, as you can see, amphibious invasion stage module. So for the actual invasion, I'm also going to need room to set out this actual beach map sort of supplement here. So there's that. And then you can see here, okay, so there's a map there that's got the peninsula. And then down here, and then actually I can go ahead and get these out of the way. But you would obviously need table space for all those things. So there is the peninsula, and then the maps are sort of overlapping just so they wouldn't fall off the table. But you can see what's hanging off the edge of the table here. The entire southern half of the map, well down into Normandy there. And then all on the coast, and then there's this little extra bit over here too that sticks along the side that there's not room for that there. So, I've got room to set up, 2 or 3 of these maps. So for some of the smaller scenarios, I should be able to play this at home. But if I ever want to do the full campaign, this is going to be something that I'll have to set up at my club, where we've got large tables and the ability to store these monster games in a giant shelving system that we've set up there. So you can just slide the whole tabletop, maps and all, and plexi and all, just into this big shelving unit and pull it out the next time you're ready to play. So that's the only place I'm gonna have space to play a game like this for now. You know, someday when we move to our dream home, I'll have the gamer's basement set up where I can finally put together some sort of custom table to play games that are this large, which I will probably only ever have time to do in my retirement. So anyway, there you have it. That's Atlantic Wall in all of its monstrousness. Definitely the biggest game I've ever bought. I've got nothing that comes close to this in terms of map square footage. So it should be fun to start diving into this and learning the system. I don't know exactly when that will be. I've got some World War I games on my table that I want to get to first. And then eventually I will make my way to this, because I don't like buying games just as shelf trophies. I do intend to play everything that I put on my shelf. So someday I will get to this and all of its monstery detail. So thanks for watching.